Funding now on Indiegogo, it's Shadowbinders, our second chance offer to get 2 hardcovers of our classic webcomic delivered to your door. Steampunk, fantasy, and romantic comedy from Clownfish Comics. Go to Indiegogo, check out the link in the description below. Now on with the video. Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon, and this is a huge rumor, so take it with a grain of salt. We're going to talk about the rumor that Robert Kirkman is looking at buying DC Comics, or at least buying the publishing rights, I guess, to DC Comics characters. He's certainly got deep enough pockets to do it, and this kind of goes along with what Bleeding Cool was reporting last month, that there was a buyout in the works from fans with a lot of money, because WarnerMedia at this point is trying to divest itself of whatever it can to focus on its core business, which is making content for HBO Max. They don't seem to really give a shit about the comic books anymore. And a lot of the stuff that they're working on right now seems to be like young adult graphic novels and stuff. I don't think it's going to sell very well. You've got other retailers calling out DC Comics, saying, Brian Hibbs saying that they were chasing away retailers. It's kind of a mess, and it does seem like maybe these characters would be better off with fans because they are going to care more. I don't know. Again, this is a rumor we're going to talk about before we get into it. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We're over 183,000 subs. Thank you for the support. This is coming from Cosmic Book News via Ethan Van Sciver, who worked for DC Comics for a number of years. And he's talked about this situation, I believe, before, that there is a rumor that DC Comics could sell off the comic book publishing rights to its characters to fans with lots of money, and Robert Kirkman certainly does have lots of money, Walking Dead money. He probably could afford the license or afford to just, take a chance on that. So we'll see. Posted by Matt McGloin, Kirkman rumored to buy DC Comics. The claim was made last month by former DC Comics artist Ethan Van Sciver, who commented on a Bleeding Cool article about a potential DC Comics buyout, something Van Sciver said was going to happen over a year ago. Yeah, we've mentioned that before. We've mentioned rumors that we've been hearing on the Marvel side too, that Disney just doesn't want to be involved in publishing comic books. For a mega corporation like Disney or WarnerMedia, Warner Brothers, it's not really profitable. And AT&T is definitely squeezing Warner right now, trying to get them to, make as much money as possible. They sold off Crunchyroll. They don't seem very interested in making comic books, to be honest. They laid a bunch of people off. I mean, they had, several rounds of cutbacks. So yeah, comics really aren't that important to AT&T at this point. And most media companies, basically sublet or license out their comic book characters. Disney, other than the Marvel superheroes, everything else is licensed out to different publishers. You pay Disney to be able to make, Donald Duck comics or whatever. And from their point of view, as I understand it, this was a couple of years ago, they're like, why are we keeping Marvel comics afloat when somebody else would pay us to publish Avengers and Spider-Man comics? And they kind of tested the waters with IDW to see what would happen there, and it didn't go as well as they were hoping. That's my understanding. I don't know. But I can tell you, if DC Comics goes this route, then Marvel probably will go this route not long after. So similar to what Van Sciver said all along, Bleeding Cool states that AT&T will stop publication of DC Comics and will license out the characters to other publishers. With it said, Marvel confirming rumors, IDW and Dynamite have all approached DC, but it said the prices cited were too high to strike a deal. The article offers that last year, a number of high-rolling individuals were given tours of the DC Comics offices in Burbank with AT&T and Warner officials, where there have been discussions about licensing the characters. It's noted the talks were just about the comics, not about the rights to the movies, TV shows, gaming, and merchandise. Now, probably what would happen is you have the rights to make the comics, and you take over the DC comic book universes. And we have the right, from now until the end of time to make Batman movies and Wonder Woman movies and Superman movies and video games and all that junk. That would be my guess. If the deal happens, it would see DC Comics licensed out to whoever got the license, and they would be free to develop the characters as they wish, with AT&T free to adapt those stories if they wish to do so. That's kind of how the deal is with Disney Comics right now. Every publisher that creates Disney Comics, Disney at the end of the day owns those characters. So if there are concepts created in the Disney Comics, like, DuckTales or whatever, Disney can adapt that stuff and not have to compensate those publishers additionally. That's, and all those comics created worldwide, by the way. There are several different publishers that do Disney Comics all over the world. All of those stories get dumped into a bucket, and usually if you get the Disney Comics license, you can pull from you can publish, republish stories from Brazil or Italy or the Netherlands or whatever, because you have the license. But at the end of the day, they're still Disney's toys and they own them, and they can take them back whenever they want to. You create characters in a Disney comic, even if you're, the license holder, Disney still at the end of the day owns those characters. And if they want that character to show up on DuckTales or something, they don't have to give you any additional money. So it's really, at least with the Disney deal, it's a very one-sided deal. You basically pay them for the right to make them more money, and you take all the risk and they get paid either way. Well, the article didn't name specific names. It dropped hints as it referenced those individuals in the comic book business who own multi-million-dollar copies of Action Comics #1 and Detective Comics #27. So does that include Robert Kirkman? Does he own both of those books? Van Sciver, who recently received credits in Zack Snyder's Justice League, offered that sources have filled him in that two individuals in the comic book business who are interested in buying DC Comics include Walking Dead creator Robert Kirkman and Diamond Distributors founder Steve Geppi. Actually, Geppi's got pretty deep pockets, regardless of how Diamond's doing right now. The guy was living in like this ridiculous mansion, and he's got a lot of collectibles, and I could totally see him doing it. He stepped in to save Disney Comics. He started Gemstone Publishing, which I worked for a while. And if he's got a huge heart for DC characters, which I believe he does, and he'd probably be like, I'd rather take care of them than have them go someplace else, It's not Todd McFarlane. I don't think Todd McFarlane has nearly the money that Steve Geppi has. I don't know. So this is what Van Sciver said on YouTube. You guys can go out and find his original video. But he said, they're closing down DC Comics. There's no reason to be in denial. I'm not wrong. I've been right all along. They're closing down DC Comics. It does feel that way, right? I mean, they're shutting down, they're laying people off. They're canceling books. It feels very final, and if DC goes down, Marvel's going to go down too, because Disney's going to look at this and be like, why are we spending the money we're spending to publish comic books? The margins are just not there. We're actually losing money at this point. Just let somebody else pay us to make Spider-Man comics. He said, two sources have let me know that Robert Kirkman is one of the main people. Don't let Kelly Sue DeConnick write Aquaman again. She's going to ruin it. Yeah, so we'll see what happens. I don't know. Guys. I was trying to find some more current information on it. I can't find anything. It would not surprise me if we had Hollywood comic book people get involved to try to save DC Comics. I don't know, what that would look like. I have no idea. If somebody bought DC Comics, are we talking like a very, very pared down version of DC? Are they only going to do like, a dozen books a month or something? If I were in charge, and, I obviously don't have the money to do this, but if I were in charge, I would probably just cut it down to a dozen, 2 dozen books a month. Really, really good books, and call it a day, because you don't have to bring in the massive amounts of money that AT&T is going to demand or Warner is going to demand, and just focus on, I remember when I was a kid, Marvel, they had the Marvel checklist in the books, and you could buy most of Marvel's line every month on allowance money. These comics were 75 cents or $1, when I really started reading comics, and there were about a dozen, 15 core titles, and then, all the spin-offs and miniseries and all that junk. So it was doable. The thing is this would completely, if you cut back on the number of floppies being produced, it would completely destroy the comic shop ecosystem. Comic shops would become like record stores where they basically just sell vintage stuff and the occasional new stuff that comes out, but they were mostly dependent on back issue sales and, pop vinyls and all that crap. So I don't know. Interesting rumor, for sure. I don't know what's going to happen. Going to wrap it up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.